having our first summer seminar, which was Professor Crosby and 3 student fellows, and we were going to have like 4 afternoons of classes. And we were planning these. It didn't take much planning at all. And I was talking with John Henry, and he said, what if we invite some more people? I said, oh, wow, that sounds nice. How many people are you thinking to invite? And he said, all of them. I said, what does that mean? And he said, it's the whole email list. I said, well, how many people is there? He's like, 5,000. So it's next week. He's like, I know, so it's soon, so not a lot of them will be able to make it. But we'll just see. And we did, and around 30 people came. Some of whom are back this time, which is just wonderful to see, and reminds us of how great of a tradition that this has become. So thank you, John Henry, for your wild ideas and being willing to push send on emails to thousands of people. And if I recall, I think you wanted to thank some people.
Philosophers are very good at the transvaluation of values. You notice that Christopher has just acknowledged me for what is essentially spamming. But it worked, and I remember that at that first seminar, Fritz Vainisch was on the faculty with my father, so he is among the repeat attendees. So, well, I'm humbled to be here. I thank you for all of your thanks, and I would just like to say that, I mean, the privilege is above all my own to have been entrusted with this work, and I sometimes say to my wife, I mean, what else would I be doing anyway? And when I'm feeling a little bit more maybe self-critical, I say, well, this is at least what keeps me off the streets or out of jail, or, you know, who knows what other activities I might undertake in my, as a spammer after all, so. So I would like to thank 2 people in particular. First of all, I'd like to thank Catherine Beagle, who's here somewhere. Would Catherine please stand up? Thank you. Catherine has been, as all of you know, the coordinator for this summer's seminar, and made everything work very smoothly. And I have been in some ways convinced that Catherine must have some sort of magical abilities at her disposal, because things have a way of appearing when we need them at the right moment. I mean, this is the person who, when we realize we need a whiteboard the day before the seminar, knows where to find the markers and the eraser. And can find things on campus at a whim, or when we have to break the news to some administrator on campus that we have to do something that they won't like. Catherine has been very effective at. Let's just say I won't have to bring my head on a platter to anyone at this university after this seminar, thanks to Catherine. So, Catherine, thank you very much. And I also want to thank, in a very special way, Lindsay Russell. Where's Lindsay? Lindsay. I don't know what I'm going to do without Lindsay. This is Lindsay's last month with the Hildebrand Project. She's been the administrative coordinator for a year now and had been a student fellow before. And she's just been a tremendous colleague for me here on campus and with Christopher, and has served the project with such a devotion to the mission. She took the great work of her predecessor, and Lindsay, you've added so much to it in your own very special and committed way. So we wish you all the best in your future. And though I will say that Lindsay, on the one hand, she's ready to move on. She's going to get married, and that's a great thing. I sometimes accuse her of leaving me for another man, but in any case. This has been a cycle. Say what? My wife is objecting to this, so I'll leave this one. She knows that I'm speaking only analogically, so. But in any case, Lindsay has been very shrewd, though, because upon hearing that we may take this seminar to Europe next semester, she has sort of negotiated for herself a possible return. So, I apparently just have to call. Well, in any case, I want to acknowledge Lindsay, and then finally I want to acknowledge any of our other student fellows. They're not all here, but I think that Hannah Bruckner is here. Would you stand, Hannah? And also, is Catherine Yanko in the room? Catherine! These are two of our wonderful student fellows. We had our final class of fellows for the time being last fall, so I'm very happy that all of you can meet them. And I want to, in particular, on this public occasion, also welcome Hannah to the project in a new way. Hannah will be moving from student fellow to taking over Lindsay's position. So Hannah will be the administrative coordinator within the next few weeks, but at next summer seminar. So welcome, Hannah. And while we're sort of engaging, excuse me? Oh yes. How could I forget? Also, Catherine will be remaining with the project in the role that you all know her in, namely to help us coordinate events. So Catherine, I'm delighted that you're also staying on with us and look forward to working with you. So that means, I suppose, that many of you here will have also the chance to work with Catherine in the future. So while I'm engaging in all sorts of thanking, I can't neglect also to thank Christopher Haley, my colleague. Christopher holds many titles here: Director of Publications, Director of Marketing, but he's really also I think you gave yourself this title of Chief Entertainment Officer. So. Oh yes, this is where what? This is a strange lecture or talk that I'm giving here with all these directions. Well, I think I'm going to Would all the married couples in the room please kiss each other? I wasn't aware, so excuse me here. Technical difficulties here.
Now, while we are in the business of remembering special anniversaries, we want to remember Fritz Wenisch and his wife coming up on their 50th wedding anniversary.
And with this, I end my remarks and
it is 49. But since I'm here already anyway, and since I took all kinds of liberties during my presentations, maybe I can take another liberty and tell a couple of jokes. A very sick man was brought to the emergency room of the hospital, and the physician examined him and then said afterwards, "I am going to give it to you straight. You are in real bad shape, and there's only one thing that can save your life. You need a brain transplant. But you are lucky. We have 3 brains here. One is from a ditch digger. That would be $100,000. One is from a nuclear physicist. That would be $100,000, $200,000. One is from a university president. That would be $1 million. The man asks, "But doc, what makes the university president's brain so expensive?" "Yeah, you have to know that brain has never been used." Some additional university president jokes. And of course, I must emphasize, I'm talking about presidents of secular universities. Only secular universities. And of course, with those, I have experience. Now, a university president buys a new home. And the home needs some work. And he looks for cheap labor. And the cheapest labor he can find is his provost. Now, one of the things that the house needs is shingles need to be nailed to it. And so the provost is standing there with a bag of nails, a hammer, and takes the shingles and goes like that. The university president watches him and then asks, "Hey, don't you know we are on a tight budget? How come you're throwing half of the nails away?" Provost says, "Didn't you notice? Half of the nails have the head on the wrong side." University president says, "You fool! Don't you know that those nails are for the other side of the house?" Now, after they are done with their work, they go to a bar. And as they are walking into the bar, the provost asks the university president, "Hey, do you see that dead bird?" "Where?" Now, after they are done with the bar, they go to the president's house. And as they are walking across the quadrangle, the provost steps into some dirt. And then they come to the house, and the provost walks with the president to carry some stuff for him. And then they come to the house of the president. And the provost hands the stuff that he's carrying to the president and says, "I better not go in. I might carry dirt into your house." President says, "Oh, you are wearing your shoes anyway." Now it looks as if it is time to get rid of the university president. So, there's an airplane with 3 passengers, a student, an ethics teacher, and a university president. And suddenly, the pilot turns around and says, "We are developing engine problems. The plane is going to crash. And unfortunately, we have only 3 parachutes." Now, of course, I, as the pilot, get one of them, takes one, and jumps out. University president says, "I get, of course, a parachute too. What would they do in Kingston without me?" Takes a pair and jumps out. Then the ethics professor says, "Okay, student, I better, for a change, practice what I'm preaching all the time. Why are you not taking the last of the parachutes?" The student says, "Don't worry, prof. There are still 2 parachutes. The university president just jumped out with my sleeping bag."
full of wisdom, always, more is overflowing. Well, I I don't envy anyone who would have to follow that, but we do have a couple people to follow that in a tradition for our closing dinners at the summer seminar. We like to invite up a couple of students, our participants, to give some reflections and lead us in a series of toasts. So if I could call up Freya Martinson, I don't know where you are, but come on up.
So I'm a rising senior at the University of Tulsa, and like Christopher said, I'm studying philosophy and art history with minors in painting. Can you hear me? Is this volume good? Okay. No. Oh. Okay. All right. And I couldn't believe my luck when I was listening to a podcast, and John Henry was being interviewed by a man named Matthew Leonard on a podcast called The Art of Catholic. And he described the seminar, and I had for the past year and a half been what I call recovering from a pretty vicious strain of utilitarianism. And I think I contracted it in New Jersey at the public schools. So I had just started like exploring liberal arts and reconnecting with my love for painting and art history, and just kind of shedding all these. A word that's come up a lot this week has been prejudices. I was shedding a lot of prejudices against truth and goodness, and ultimately beauty. And so I heard the podcast. I was really moved, and so I applied, and I couldn't believe it when I got the email inviting me to come. And I spent the rest of the semester, I've described to a few people in some upper level art history classes. And that was my first exposure to the thinking that I realized has formed the education that I've grown up in. I guess what we now call postmodern thought, and the complete rejection of any transcendental or anything beyond the material. And while I was also exploring my faith, I didn't know how to grapple with this. So this conference couldn't have come at a better time for me, as I am feeling pulled in so many different directions. I was thinking about the week, and I realized that we've talked a lot about beauty and experiences of beauty, and for me, this entire week has been an experience of beauty, because beauty is something that reaches out and pulls you. And I have felt more than pulled. I felt shoved, and beauty. The week has been more than just comforting to know that there are so many people who have really deep faith and live lives that to me seem so holy. They have metaphysical beauty, and they also support and chase visual and audible beauty. And I'm leaving with overwhelming gratitude and a desire to, I think all of us have a desire to take what we've learned and however clumsily try to apply it in our own lives, in my own life, in my family, in my classes, and in my life after graduation, wherever that may take me. And I definitely hope we have similar conferences like this on beauty. I think it's such an important topic to me and so deeply personal. And the more I reflect on it, the more I realize that it's something that I know all my peers. I can't speak for a generation of people, but a lot of my friends struggle with, and there's so much healing that needs to happen in this area. Let's see if I had any other things to say. And more than being comforted, and along the same lines of being shoved, I have felt challenged, really challenged to continue with resolutions that I've made for myself. Like I've said maybe for the past like 4 months that I want to be a painting theologian, and I didn't know they existed. And then I had like a year ago, I learned about Donnie McManus. I couldn't believe it when he was here, and James Patrick as well, and all these inspiring people who heard God's will for them and then chased after it with just like an inspiring trust in what I would like to toast, which is what Matthew Leonard said you toasted one of the first nights he met you, was to truth, goodness, and beauty.
Now I'd like to call up Tavner Threet as well. Yeah, you have a fan club. I was talking with Tavner earlier today. I've known Tavner for many years now, and this is the second time he's been to one of these seminars. And not sure if I'll relate this exactly right, but someone was saying something nice, and then I said something that wasn't. I have a tendency of sort of bullying into arguments sometimes, and Tavner said, "See, you need to be nice," and something like, you have said it before. And well, yeah, and I said, there's this line in Sertalange where it says, you have to, do the things that you can do well and have faith in the church that it will make up for the things you leave undone. And Tavner said, "That's me. I'm the nice one." I said, I have great faith that there will be some nice people who come and make it all right when I'm done. And Tavner realized that was him, and it is, and I thank you for that. You do a wonderful job. But I've seen you all week be really nice to everyone, and that's been a comment that I've heard from a lot of people, that Tavner has this very special way of sort of smoothing over some of the difficulties that have come up this week. So I felt it was appropriate and fitting to have you give us a toast.
Well, instead of being called just merely nice, I think maybe the cleaning crew would be more adequate. I'm not quite sure that I've been smoothing things over so much as I've been, trying to somehow embody this personalism and deep philosophical approach, which I think Christopher also does in a really way that involves a lot of humor and a lot of festivity. I'm just the one that, picks up the broken glasses after everyone goes home. And you know what? That's great. I like it. What's that? Oh, yeah. Hopefully not. Christopher may have to clean up that one. So yeah, this week is, we've all come from some various different backgrounds, some more prominent in this group than others. And it caused, understandably some different perspectives, which I ultimately think has been really good. It's good to not have an echo chamber that you're all talking to, because I think ultimately, if the truth exists, then through, not to be too Hegelian, but through dialectic, it's gonna come out, and hopefully that, like Christopher said, if we're able to be good Christian folk and be charitable and just to our fellow man and love them, then we'll be able to learn from them just as much as if we're trying to present our position. Hopefully, other people can learn from us as well. So, in that spirit, I just wanted to take a little issue with the title of this seminar, since we're being contrarian. I know that you probably don't mean it this way, but I do think retrieving beauty is a little oxymoronic, given a lot of the subject matter we've gone over this week. Beauty seems to me that it can't be retrieved because beauty is not something that can be totally apprehended. It eludes our grasp. However, we know what is meant by the title that the Hildebrand Project put on it, because we know something of beauty. Well, how do we know that beauty exists if we can't apprehend it? I think we sort of have gone over in the last couple days some more recent thought that brings in a little bit more of the very Hildebrandian idea of the heart, of the human person, of subjectivity. And we know, first of all, about beauty because we experience it. We may not be able to describe it or talk about it even in a room full of philosophers in a way that we can all agree, but we know that it exists. Beauty is actually the one that retrieves us. It does have a way of drawing us out, like it's already been said. It awakens us by its alluring splendor. Once this happens, there's no denying it. And either attempting to deny the reality of the experience or by reducing it to some unsatisfactory rational notions, we do it violence on both sides. Does this mean that beauty is in some way just anti-intellectual? I don't think so, by no means. It is real, objectively real, subjectively. It is not known actively, but is only known by active passivity, by openness that anticipates receptivity. I know that's sort of a lot of ITYs in one sentence, but we've talked about this a lot this week, and I know we have in our little small breakout group. Active receptivity, as we learned today, and when we talked about von Balthasar, involves silence and meditation and openness. But it's a kind of openness that anticipates receptivity. And I think that's really an important distinction to be made to sort of unify the various voices that we've had this week. We do give beauty permission to pluck us out by our openness. I know we just heard the idea of being shoved into beauty. Plato talks about that in the cave, being, you have to get dragged out. But in the Phaedrus, it's a little bit more pleasant of an experience. So maybe it is kind of both. And then it's not unsatisfactory to both reason and actual experience. I think that's what the unique thing is about beauty. So I wanted to, I don't hope this isn't too sentimental, but I wanted to read a couple lines from the Hildebrand lecture by Dr. Schindler. First and foremost, because it's the only philosophy lecture in 8 years of studying philosophy that brought tears to my eyes. So I think that's somewhat significant in some way. Haven't quite figured it out yet. Anyways, here we go. So Ratzinger points to Balthasar's work as a work of theological aesthetics that attempts to recover the knowledge of the heart. For Balthasar, access to the transcendentals begin in beauty. It is the initial primary draw that sets the tone for our awareness of reality. Beauty translates into goodness and into truth in the order of Balthasar's monumental work that hopefully I will be able to complete at some point, but I can't imagine. It's meant to communicate the faith, not merely through argumentation and explanation. It's a passing on of the faith, an appropriation of the mysteries of God, who is infinitely transcendent and beyond human capacity. And all three, beauty, goodness, and truth, radiate in a certain kind of splendor. We talked about that in the Maritain lecture. There are two missteps that I think have come out this week. Either A, reducing the mystery to our human capacity to understand its concepts and sentiments, being able to apprehend beauty completely through reason, or overemphasizing the mystery, which can lead to an obscuring of morality, which kind of came up today, and removes the claim that beauty makes on us. But we know that beauty has a claim on us. It plucks us out, pulls us up, it transforms us, whether or not we like it sometimes. Sometimes you have an experience of the beautiful and you're not quite comfortable with what happened, but you have to reckon with it and you have to act based on that experience. Beauty does not simply bring the infinite down, but it lifts us up into the mystery. This is all very compatible with Dietrich von Hildebrand's thought. Balthasar pulls out the strands that have only been present in the background in the Western philosophical tradition, such as beauty being a matter of the heart. Beauty forms the context in which truth and goodness are themselves. Beauty supports them. Truth really doesn't make a lot of sense, and goodness doesn't attract us without beauty. Beauty has to come first, and it's primary. But beauty also contains the whole. It holds together unity and difference, transcendence and immanence, body and soul, subjectivity and objectivity, grace and nature. As Maritain says, beauty radiates the splendor of the whole. So I hope in some way that was able to unify us as well this week, that we can see the great power of beauty is the power of unity. I think it was already mentioned the great metaphysical beauty of everyone here has been a great unifying thing. I'm thinking of some specific examples. Of course, Dr. Vanish's contagious cheerfulness. No one can deny, even if no one can explain. I'm thinking of Ken's immense humility. No one can deny that either. Donnie McManus talks a lot about real presence, but he also embodies it. He is a embodiment of Christian personalist real presence. Our small group leader, Dan Schaefer, has some great philosophic precision. He asked a lot of really great questions, drew out a lot of really great conversation. Everyone knows Andrew's steel sincerity, and it's really attractive. It is. Jonathan Anderson's courtesy. And after last night, we all know, I wish she was here, I don't think she's here, but Rebecca Almondson's intelligence, deep feeling, and graceful telling of what I'm going to call epics. I've learned as much from all of you this week as I have from the lectures. There really has been a real presence of beauty here, and I hope you all are leaving as changed as I am. So thank you to the Legacy Project who made this happen, even down to the last detail. It really took a lot of programming genius to put this together the way that you did. And though I am feeling almost a little coming down with a cold or something at the end of the week, beauty comes from a struggle, so I'm trying to remember that. I also want to thank all the presenters, the lecturers, and the artists, the art critics who illuminated us with the splendor of the truth. And I want to thank everyone that I had conversations with. I know, one of the special things about this conference that maybe doesn't explicitly get programmed in yet is the sort of into the night, really great dignifying of one another. It does take a little lubrication sometimes, but everyone seemed to come prepared, which was good.
Bourbon. He's talking about bourbon.
Bourbon. I think Ambassador Novaks were made a lot in honor of Michael Novak. I have a bottle of mezcal that's not gone, so maybe we can do something about that later. So, in that spirit, I would like to propose a toast. May we see the world enchanted with beauty as it is, and may we also contribute to that beauty. Cheers.
I want to just close with the short quote from one of the recommended readings that we didn't get to, which was John Paul II's letter to artists, where he says, "Not all are called to be artists in the specific sense of the term. Yet, as Genesis has it, all men and women are entrusted with the task of crafting their own life. In a certain sense, they are to make of it a work of art, a masterpiece." So this last toast is to you all, to the works of art that you all have become, and to, I think, the many masterpieces in this room. Thank you all.